Claude Monet, The Man Who Chased Light. Part 1. The Garden Beyond the Fog. It was a foggy morning in Giverny. The mist hung low over the lily pond, draping every flower, every blade of grass, in a soft, shimmering veil. And yet, in the studio behind the garden, the old man painted with trembling hands. The strokes were bold, furious even, as if he were trying to outrun time itself. Claude Monet had not spoken in days. He refused to eat, refused to rest. He stood before his massive canvas, smeared with colors that bled together like the passing of seasons. Blue for memory, green for regret, white for the light he could no longer see. They said he was going blind. But Monet disagreed. "I'm not losing sight," he whispered to the wind once. "I'm just finally seeing what's always been there." But this story, this madness of beauty, grief, obsession, didn't begin in Giverny. It began far earlier, in a place where light was not yet sacred, and the boy who would become a legend was just a defiant child with coal-stained fingers and a fire in his heart. Chapter 1. The Boy Who Mocked the World. Le Havre, 1845. A cold coastal wind whipped through the narrow streets of the town, stinging the cheeks of a young Claude Monet as he sketched grotesque caricatures of his schoolteachers in the margins of his notebook. He was barely 5, already insufferably arrogant, already brilliant. His mother, Louise Justine, encouraged his artistic instincts. She was a quiet woman with a gentle heart and a voice that could silence the sea. She believed in beauty, in God, in the power of creation. But his father, Adolphe Monet, was a merchant, a man of practicality, of numbers, of disdain for paint-stained fingers and dreams that didn't profit. "Painting will make you poor," he warned his son once. Monet had smiled. "Then I'll be the richest poor man in France." By the age of 15, Claude's caricatures sold at the local frame shop. He became notorious in Le Havre for his cruel wit and uncanny ability to capture people's souls with just a few lines. He didn't paint beauty. Not yet. He painted mockery. He painted anger. Then came Eugene Boudin. Chapter 2. The First Light. Boudin was a landscape painter. Quiet. Modest. He invited Claude to join him outdoors one afternoon to paint the sky as it shifted above the harbor. The young Monet, skeptical but curious, followed. That day changed everything. "I watched the sky like I had never seen it before," Monet later wrote. "Every cloud was a brushstroke. Every shadow a melody." Boudin taught him something more dangerous than technique. He taught him reverence. Suddenly, Claude Monet wasn't mocking the world anymore. He was chasing it, trying to catch it in motion. The sea, the wind, the glimmer of light on water just before it fades. He became obsessed, possessed. But there was no place for obsession in Le Havre. When his mother died in 1857, something broke in him. He ran. To Paris. To art. To madness. Chapter 3. The War Inside. Paris was both a cathedral and a battlefield. In the cafés, artists screamed about the death of tradition. In the salons, critics wept over the decay of moral painting. And Claude Monet, stubborn and poor, stood at the center of it all with a palette of rage and a refusal to conform. He met Renoir, Bazille, Sisley, brothers in rebellion. Together they painted light, not history. Color, not form. They painted what they saw, not what they were told to see. But the world laughed. At the first Impressionist exhibition, his painting Impression, Sunrise, was called unfinished wallpaper. Critics used the word Impressionist as an insult. Monet smiled. He had found his war. And he would fight it with every drop of paint in his veins. But war is cruel. And it doesn't only take critics. Claude Monet, Through the Fog of Light. Part 2. Chapter 4. The Cathedral and the Abyss. Rouen. 1892. The city echoed with church bells and the footsteps of horses over cobblestones. Claude stood before the Rouen Cathedral, his breath visible in the cold morning light. He had rented a small room across from the cathedral just to study it, over and over again, through mist, through haze, through morning gold and evening flame. Where others saw religion, he saw rhythm. He painted it not once but over 30 times. Each canvas a meditation on light's metamorphosis. But something was wrong. Something inside him. Alice, his second wife, had grown frail. Consumption. Her cough shook the walls at night. And Claude, once full of defiance against time, now feared its every tick. He would paint during the day and weep at night. He tried to hide it from Alice, but she could see it in his brushwork. The colors were still there, but the strokes were violent now. Urgent. Almost desperate. One afternoon, as the cathedral's shadow shifted, he saw something in the facade that hadn't been there before. A hollow, a pit. as if the stone itself was crumbling from grief. He painted it. That canvas, more than the others, pulsed with dread. When Alice died in 1911, Claude destroyed 3 of his own paintings. He locked himself in his studio in Giverny for weeks. The lilies in his pond bloomed without him. And when he finally emerged, he was not the same. Chapter 5. The Garden as Salvation. Giverny. The name itself sounds like a breath exhaled after weeping. Claude had moved there decades earlier, planting gardens like a madman. Water lilies, wisteria, weeping willows, Japanese bridges. He shaped the land like a god, then sat before it like a humble worshipper. His paintings of the garden had become famous, too famous, he thought. Critics called them dreams in bloom, but Claude knew they were something else. They were therapy. And now, after Alice's death, they were resurrection. He began the grand decorations, massive panels of water lilies taller than men, longer than halls. He painted for hours, sometimes forgetting to eat. Sometimes forgetting that he was old, nearly blind. His son Jean tried to stop him. "You need rest, father." "I need to disappear," Claude said. Each brushstroke was a funeral and a birth. He painted not flowers but fragments of sky. Not water but memory. The panels became walls of grief and glory. Chapter 6. Eyes full of fog. War loomed across Europe. Giverny trembled with the sound of cannons. Claude's world narrowed. His eyesight, once sharp as glass, began to cloud. Cataracts. He refused surgery for years. He claimed it would ruin him. What is an artist without vision? Yet he kept painting. But now his colors were off. The reds too strong. The greens too dull. Some canvases became muddy whirlpools. He burned them. Neighbors whispered that Monet had gone mad. And perhaps he had. But then, in 1923, desperation pushed him to surgery. His eye was cut. The fog lifted, partially. And what he saw stunned him. His old paintings were clearer than his current ones. His garden more beautiful than his canvases. It was as if time had betrayed him, offering him clarity only when he could no longer fully use it. He began again, furiously, like a man chasing the ghost of his younger self, painting lilies until they bled from the canvas, until they became suns, moons. Chapter 7. The Final Bridge. Claude knew he was dying. The fog was back, not just in his vision but in his lungs, his bones, his dreams. He summoned Georges Clemenceau, his old friend and former Prime Minister of France. He showed him the grand decorations, a gift, Claude said, to the people of France. A temple of peace after a world of war. Clemenceau wept. "You've turned water into eternity," he said. Monet's last days were spent in his garden, on a chair facing the pond. He painted with trembling hands. The nurses said he often talked to Alice, to Camille, even to his mother. The morning he died, mist covered Giverny like a veil. But when the sun rose, it broke through, just enough to illuminate the lilies, as if nature itself bowed. Chapter 8. Legacy and Light. Claude Monet was buried in a simple grave, under a simple headstone. But his legacy bloomed beyond stone. He was not merely a painter of gardens and sunrises. He was a man who chased light like a hunter, who captured time not with clocks but with color, who painted the same haystack 20 times just to prove the world is never still. His critics once called him insane. Now they call him a genius. The grand decorations hang in the Orangery Museum, circling viewers like a vortex. People stand in silence before them, unable to speak. Some cry. It's said that if you look long enough into those water lilies, you see not just flowers but everything: joy, death, memory, time, grief, rebirth. In the final canvas Claude painted, there is no horizon, no edge, just water, just reflection. And somewhere in that reflection is him. Still painting. Still watching. Still waiting for the perfect light.